It's only when you get decades on and you look back, you don't remember any of that stuff. And you see, oh, look what God was doing there, and look at the success, and that would have never happened if this didn't happen, and on and on. And you can look back on it. And so the thing I've learned, I think, is to be tenacious and keep going irrespective of the obstacles.
Welcome to The Connected Good, a podcast about what becomes possible when people meet in hope. Each episode, we sit down with different change makers, advocates, and everyday people who are pursuing justice and amplifying hope. This episode, I'm chatting with Brian McConaghy, founding director of Ratanak International, as he shares about his upcoming retirement and the legacy that Ratanak continues to build on. We believe that real change often starts in the quiet, courageous ways that we choose to connect. Through conversation, compassion, and shared purpose. We are so glad that you're here. Join us as we explore the good that we can create together.
As of this month, it will be shared with everyone that you have made the decision with Lou that you will be retiring this year. We're excited. There are big plans, possibly. I mean, some rest after a long, long time, 35, 36 years. What are you finally going to write your book? Are you going to travel around the world? What are the plans? Share with the audience.
There's no plans for a book. I think really there are some health considerations that are very real, including the RCMP. Basically 40 years of pretty stressful work have taken their toll. So, that needs to get dealt with, and I need to take care there. So that's one of the pieces of this. But really one of the key events that really led to this was just a few years ago when I was pretty exhausted, and the Ratanak board decided to give me a 4-month sabbatical. And that was kind of the worst decision they ever made, because if it had been 10 years earlier, it would have been a sabbatical, but it's so close to retirement that it's kind of like, oh, this is what relaxation looks like. Mm-hmm. And the thing that was amazing to me was how much I enjoyed spending time with Louise. Now that sounds very odd.
I'm glad that that's the case.
Yeah, but so many COVID marriages, when couples found that they were actually in the same house, stuck with each other, they discovered they hated each other, which is an absolute tragedy. Mm-hmm. A 4-month sabbatical allowed us to spend time together. And so Louise spending time together, we realized how much we loved that. And sort of the flip side of that is we realized how much we had kind of lost over the years. Ratanak has been costly in that way, with me not being available for family events. I've been traveling, I've been speaking, the pressure's always been on, it's been relentless. And when I was doing Ratanak and RCMP, add court travel and investigations to that, it was just really, really challenging. And to get to a sabbatical where you suddenly realize, oh, this is kind of what a marriage looks like, and spending time with your partner. That was huge, and was probably the tipping point where I realized, okay, even on an ethical level, I owe Louise time. I need to spend time with Louise. And so then when some health issues kick in, it was just like, okay, I definitely need to spend time with Lou.
So what's one thing that you are looking forward to doing together in your retirement?
Honestly, we haven't really got that far in terms of thinking.
A nap?
Yeah, sleep. Sleep would be really good. I would love to spend some time in Europe. I don't know if we'll be able to pull this off, but I would love to spend time in places like Geneva and studying the Reformation some more. I've developed a real interest in that, and an interest of the documents of the Reformation. Stuff like that'd be nice. Family in Ireland and in Wales would be lovely. One of the health considerations we have to deal with is travel. Travel's hard for me with regard to flights now. So all that impacts retirement as well. So we just don't know what we'll be able to do, but that would be a desire for sure.
That's awesome. Hopefully that happens. Hopefully you get some good rest. That's well deserved. And that you and Lou, I mean, I'm really excited for this new chapter for you. And I'm sure everyone that's hearing the news also, that as much as there's a bittersweetness to it a little bit, of course, but sure. Excitement, gladness that after all this time, that some rest is warranted.
Yeah.
So
I remember in the early days of Ratanak during the Civil War, I would repeatedly say, I'm not sure I'm going to get out of Ratanak alive. Ooh. And all the indications are I'm going to get out of Ratanak alive.
That's
so it's all
win.
good.
Actually, that's a good segue. I mean, there's a lot to talk about in terms of the future, but maybe we can look back a little bit in terms of when you first founded Ratanak, which I know wasn't exactly planned per se.
Yeah.
What was your vision or your heart behind it all? And how has that evolved over time as Cambodia and Ratanak has changed?
As God develops things, sometimes we're the last people to be informed of what He's doing. And the thing that surprises me is how much He uses weakness and frailty and failure. So for me, I was becoming pretty depressed working with dead people all the time in the RCMP. The nature of my work was involved a lot of dealing with the aftermath of extreme violence. And so it was really that sense of isolation that caused me to go to Asia and go somewhere bright and sunny and full of live people and try and forget all that. Little did I know I was heading into a war zone and ended up on the Thai-Cambodian border. So I came back from that trip wanting to help, but not feeling I had any real skills. How do you help a nation that is suffering that much? The borders had been sealed. No medicine was allowed in the country and hadn't been for 13 years after the genocide, which is devastating. And so there was a measure of, for me, almost like a national guilt being from a Western country. And we had done this. The Western countries were not on the right side of this morally. And we had tormented this poor little country. And so being Irish and not being scared of a good fight, I figured I want to get a couple of suitcases of medicine into Cambodia in memory of this little girl, Ratanak, that had died in the hopes of saving some lives. So in terms of planning the charity, there was no charity, as you've mentioned, in my mind. There was one project. If I could get some medicine into that country, it would be job done. I'd come home. I'm done. Now get back to my life. And it didn't work out that way. It took off. And so really it was an incremental change in terms of the goalposts constantly moving. Getting some bags of medicine into Cambodia, and then the goalpost moved. It was do it again. Or it was build clinics, and it just kept moving. And we're into our 36th year now. We're still going. And the goalposts, God keeps pushing them back and saying, no, I got one more stage for you to go. So it's been a process of constantly chasing what God is doing and what God desires. And people often say to me, what really is your job in Ratanak? And I often characterize it that I always sort of use the illustration. Imagine out on the horizon and you see dust. Way out on the horizon there's dust. That's God. He's moving. My job, keep up. Keep up. And that's what it's been. It's been really 40 years of my adult life of keeping up with what God's doing.
That's the best all that we can do, really.
Trying.
We will try, yeah.
Yeah.
When you think back in all this time, is there anything that you're particularly proud of, Ratanak, in terms of accomplishing or doing?
Oh yeah. The thing that instantly comes to mind is the Cambodian team. Ratanak over these decades has developed a superb team of people that love the Lord, that are highly skilled, they are highly educated, and that's not a North American context. That's highly educated in a country where during the genocide, everyone with more than a grade 3 education was slated for execution. I mean, they eradicated the whole educated class. So as a nation, they're starting from scratch. And in the middle of all this, as a society has developed, we've been able to nurture and encourage young Cambodians to get out and transform their own nation. And so now we have a team, 75, 77, something like that, staff that are absolutely wonderful people, dedicated to their country, dedicated to the Lord, dedicated to seeing compassion manifested right in front of lives that desperately need to see it. That is easily the most exciting thing for me, to see that team thrive.
That's right. We have 77 in Cambodia and 8 here in Canada. And our whole team, I suppose, what would you say are some of our strengths, or how have you seen the team really live out this vision of hope, dignity, and freedom for all?
Yeah, I often tell people to learn to love Cambodia is to learn to grieve. You don't get to love Cambodia without grieving. There's plenty of bad stuff there, both historically and in terms of the field we work in human trafficking. There's lots of grievous activities in terms of what humans will do to other humans. And to bring light and hope and joy and exuberance to that requires a certain tenacity. And so that's one of the things I cherish most about the Ratanak team, is we bring tenacity to that. We bring a dedication to the issues, yes, but we bring a dedication to the Lord, and that's central. This is not something I believe you can do well for a long time unless you have faith in something bigger than yourself. You can do it well for a short time and then go back to your life. Or you can do it, I think, in a kind of a suffering, struggling through way for a long period of time without faith. But to do it well, long term, and maintain any measure of joy and hope requires an understanding of the Lord. And the team clearly has that. And that's one of the things that's most valuable to Ratanak, is that foundation. Because without that foundation, we're up against a very ugly world by ourselves. And we're not going to win. But with the Lord's help, we can see lives transformed all over the place, and that's really, really exciting. But it's tough.
I like how that reminds me how often you say that with all the suffering that we encounter, all the trauma, it really feels impossible to fix or to heal. But then we realize that we serve the great physician, and that makes all the difference, that we're not the ones that are healing. Yeah. We just happen to be fortunate enough to witness and be a part of it. So yeah.
So in the very first pedophile investigation I was involved in, there were 7 kids involved in that, and very quickly I learned not to look up at the horizon and the thousands of children that had been sold into sex slavery internationally. That's utterly overwhelming. God wasn't asking me to do that. He normally gives us stuff we can manage. And it was tough enough to manage just the 7, but it was look down. Don't look at the horizon, look down. Who are the lives right in front of you? And I had 7 kids. What was I going to do with those? And that was the challenge. And I think that's continually the challenge for us as we serve the great physician, as we seek to move ahead, as we seek to encourage Cambodian staff to serve their country and their people, that they not get overwhelmed by the big picture. And that's true for all of us, actually. It's if we take on these big tasks that are really, really God's tasks, we're not going to survive in that. But He gives us these slices of the pie, these segments, these little snippets of this is what I want you to deal with. And then when that's done, He'll give you something else. And that really has been the pattern of moving forward gradually and looking down at the lives right in front of us.
Would you say that that's the biggest thing that you've learned over the course of Ratanak in terms of a challenge to your faith and what you've learned about perseverance and justice?
It's one of the things I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I've learned to be tenacious. You learn not to give up. There are plenty of obstacles, and it's easy when you look back over decades and you see all the high points and you see the hurdles you've gotten over and the successes and whatever else. But when you're in it, you deal with problem after problem after problem. And I always sort of describe it with my hand in front of my face. Every time you get up in the morning, there's another wall, and how am I going to get through this wall? And it's soul destroying to just be problem solving and risk taking, and it's stressful to constantly be feeling out of your depth and constantly be feeling like I don't have what it takes, I don't have the skills, I don't have the know-how, the risks are huge. That's a difficult place to live in. It's only when you get decades on and you look back, you don't remember any of that stuff, and you see, oh, look what God was doing there, and look at the success, and that would have never happened if this didn't happen, and on, and you can look back on it. And so the thing I've learned, I think, is to be tenacious and keep going irrespective of the obstacles. Almost at times because of the obstacles. There is a sense to this where I feel when you get a lot of pushback spiritually, we're probably in the right place. There's a price to be paid, and there's pushback, and you're kind of going, okay, we're doing the right thing here, and this is going to be tough. So rather than kind of going, this is going to be tough, let's give up, it's the opposite. This is going to be tough, let's roll up our sleeves and get going. So I think one of the biggest lessons has been to take the risks, to step through those doors, even though they are terrifying. And a lot of times they are, because a lot of this stuff, there's no manual for it. You're writing the manual as you go. And you're learning how to do it. You're learning how to deal with the civil war environment. You're learning how to deal with different government systems that are quite adversarial to the West, originally the communist system, etc. And navigating all of that, just keep going. That's probably the biggest lessons. Keep going.
Keep going. And character building.
Yeah.
Who was it that there was someone on the team that used every time we had to do anything inconvenient or that we didn't enjoy would be like, it's character building.
Yeah, that was Graham, and he talked about his kids. He would always, refer to that with his kids. Something was tough for them at school or whatever. He'd say, well, it's character building, and he brought that into the office here, and it was used a lot. And a lot of what we have done has been character building. We're so full of character right now. We got lots of character.
It's something we roll our eyes at perhaps when it's said, but it is true.
It's
Even
true.
in the year or so that I've been with Ratanak, certainly I've seen God move, and it has been character building for me personally too, just learning.
And there's no short-circuiting that.
No.
Like there's no easy quick fix to get ahead of that. You got to do it the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You talked about how, like, decades, it's while you're going through it, it can seem, problem after problem, but it's decades later that you actually look back and you see, oh my goodness, this is what God was doing all along. So when we think about the next 35, 36 years of Ratanak, what excites you? What do you think, what do you hope we will look back in that time and be like, wow, God, that's what you were doing?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the small answer to that question and move to the big answer.
Okay.
The small answer is individual lives. As we sit here and record this, and as people sit and watch this or listen to it, there are young lives who are sold into slavery now, who are imprisoned by whatever set of circumstances, who feel the world has completely forgotten about them, that there is no hope, there is no way out. They may have been involved in some kind of exploitation or slavery for years, sometimes over 10 years, not infrequently over 10 years. It is highly destructive to your psyche and your self-esteem and who you are as a human being to be that out of control and controlled by others. That's happening while we're doing this. 6 months from now, X number of young lives will be free because of the work Ratanak's doing. We don't know who they are yet. God knows who they are. He absolutely has not forgotten. And He uses us to be part of his hands and feet in making this work and bringing freedom. So there are young lives, both male and female, right now who are thinking all is lost. Not even thinking, they are convinced all is lost because everything in their history has communicated all is lost. No, there is hope and there is freedom in their future. They don't know it yet. So in the short term, the small answer is individual lives incrementally, that so many more of them would be free, that what we've seen in the past of so many being freed, that process continues. The big answer to the question, which is going to sound really, really presumptuous and would have been presumptuous 10, 15 years ago, is that I long to see over the next 35 years Ratanak fully participate in the transformation of this nation. To take on a country like Cambodia and seek to transform it, that's a pretty, I mean, it is a presumptuous thing to say. And yet, as I look back on those decades, the things we have been privileged to participate in that have transformed Cambodia in terms of its overall systems, in terms of its compassion, in terms of how policing works, human rights, etc., we have had a far greater impact than I could have dreamed, simply by keeping going, solving the problem in front of you, and keeping going to the next day's problem. And the transformation has been extraordinary. So it then becomes reasonable, not a guarantee, but it becomes reasonable to have faith that God can actually use us to transform a nation. And that process is starting. We're seeing it. I long for that to continue, that Ratanak's legacy in that country would be on a national level far greater freedom and hope and dignity for those people.
I was reflecting on the past season and what God has been teaching me personally and through Ratanak, and it is seeing how much little things matter to God and how much He uses, as long as we're obedient, even when we're willing to make a phone call, to share, have a conversation, that you never know how God is going to use that conversation and use that your heart and your willingness to do really exponentially more than we could ever imagine or ask for. And that's kind of what Ratanak has really embodied, hey?
Yeah. And on the one hand, it sounds presumptuous to think we could have a large impact on a nation, on the lives around us, whatever. On the other hand, it's actually quite presumptuous to assume the opposite, that our conversations don't have significant meaning, that they won't have an impact. That's a pretty horrible way to live if we actually convince ourselves to the point where we're so, quote, humble or whatever, that we're actually not going to have an impact. And we diminish our own value, and we diminish the value of conversations, the actions we take. We should be living in such a way that we expect our actions to have impact. That's not arrogance. That's just a hope in the Lord that He will use what we offer Him. Our frail little gifts of conversation, of attitude, of hope, of trying to tackle the problems, we should be living, I think, more dramatically and kind of thinking, God can use this, and I expect Him to use it well and transform lives around me and transform environments around me. And so often we don't give ourselves that freedom. We presume we're smaller than God says we are. It's obviously about Him. I don't want to be arrogant in any way, but He says, I have chosen you, I love you, you are my children. How presumptuous is it to say then that, yeah, we have no meaning, and we can't impact change or create environments for change. So much of this for me has been just those small, incremental, each little door that opens, and thinking, yeah, I'm not qualified to step through this one either, but I'm going to step through it. I'm not convinced we can raise enough resources and funding to pull this off, but we're going to do it anyway. And you just keep pushing, and then that's where God says, that's the raw material I can use. That's faith, actually, is what it is. And God says, that faint little hope that you're going to do it anyway, just watch me run with it. And I think that's what Ratanak's all about. It's about watching what God has done with the little we offer Him. he runs with it. That gets me back to that earlier illustration. When he runs with it, he's the dust on the horizon, and we have to keep up.
I think for those that are listening and those who are learning about Ratanak's work, there's often when I meet new people that learn about Ratanak, they always want to know what can they do, how can they be part of making a difference, because the reality is human trafficking and exploitation. It is prevalent everywhere, and it is a really major problem in Cambodia, and it can feel massive to tackle. So how can individuals be a part of this work and be making a difference? What would you encourage?
I think the most important thing is not to assume we have to reinvent the wheel. So often we'll see a news story, we'll see a movie, we'll become aware of human trafficking, and it is overwhelming in all its forms, and feel I gotta go out and do something to help. How do I do that? Well, I think the key thing is that there are already people qualified out there doing it. So rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, it's a matter of saying who are the people who are aligned with what's in my heart and mind that I can jump in and I can assist. Because chances are whatever is on your heart as you're offended or feel compassionate for those who are enslaved or whatever reaction you have had, people have had that reaction before you and have spent years doing the heavy lifting of stepping through doors, sometimes getting it wrong, making mistakes, figuring out what works, what doesn't. A lot of those bridges have been built. You don't need to build another bridge. Walk over the bridges people have already built for you. So Ratanak is one of those bridges. There are others. We're not exclusive by any means. There's other charities that have great areas of expertise. Find those charities, find what you're aligned with, and then plug in with them. And the crass answer, but the very truthful answer, is that in our context, it primarily involves prayer and funding. It's very difficult to go to Cambodia and engage directly. It's often inappropriate just because you need to be fluent in the language, you need to understand the culture, there's just so much you need to know in order to have a positive impact that it's really not practical. Besides which, we want to empower Cambodians to serve Cambodians. They're better at it than we'll ever be from the outside. So it's not about direct involvement in that way. It's about supporting the systems of Ratanak, and our job is always to support the Cambodian team. Even the Canadian staff on Ratanak, our job is to be servants of the Cambodian team, that they can accomplish what the Lord puts in their heart for these lives. So not inventing the wheel again, figuring out what organizations you can plug in with, what are they doing, and how do you support them. So finances are huge. They really are huge. And then prayer. Prayer, I think, really, while it's obviously a spiritual discipline, prayer is also based on a discipline of knowledge and taking the time to learn. We can pray, I believe, so much more effectively if we understand what we're praying for, who we're praying for, and what the issues are. So getting informed. Charities like Ratanak can assist people in getting informed as to what are the actual issues, what are we dealing with today, what are the biggest problems, so that people are not only funding with their resources so that we can accomplish the work, but they're also praying intelligently into those specific details that they're aware. It's not just dear Lord, help Cambodia, and then on to the next topic. No, there's very definite things they're aware of. And then you become part of the solution. You buy into that on a spiritual, on an emotional level. You're part of the team at that point.
That just prompted me to think about in the past in 2025, we were able to work with 83 lives that came through our transitional care home. In fact, we only budgeted for 70, but there was a greater need, and so the government had asked us to assist with 83, and maybe a very specific prayer that we could ask for is there will continue to be need in 2026. So please consider supporting Ratanak in assisting more lives, but also specifically pray for the 83 that has come through in 2025 and their journey, their process of healing. Just because they came through the transitional care home, that's one small part of their journey. But then now they've got years and years of trauma therapy, medical support, all these things that they will require to get to some semblance of normalcy and rebuilding their lives. So pray for those lives specifically, that God would speak to them and let them know that they are loved, that they are important, that they are precious. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we can look forward and back. To use the number 83. Pray for the 83 we have in our care right now. What an amazing step that they've actually gotten that far. That they're actually safe. And as you indicate, the heavy lifting now starts with rebuilding lives that are shattered and have been deliberately shattered by others. So that's tough work. So pray for them, but also pray for the next 83, the ones we don't know about yet, because they're waiting in the wings, and we're going to need the resources. We're going to have staff resources too, in terms of just tenacity to keep going. This is exhausting for them. And so on the one hand, it's exciting to think, 83 more people, we get to assist their lives. As a counselor who's got a full docket of in terms of caseload and transportation to go out and see their clients in the village and whatever else, the very thought of another 83 is completely overwhelming. And so that sense of being slightly overwhelmed is omnipresent in Ratanak. So prayer for that and support of that is really important.
How could we pray for you, Brian, as you step into this next season of this next exciting chapter?
That's really hard to answer. I don't know. I'm not sure what it holds. I have many things in my mind and my heart that I would like to do. I have many interests. There's many things Louise and I want to do. Just that we would feel a sense of freedom to do that. I would be lying if I said that this is likely going to be an easy transition. Ratanak has been my life. I'll still be around. I'll still be aware of all that kind of stuff. I'm not disappearing. But to not be at the front lines of this is going to be a huge adjustment. So I think prayer for adjustment to a life that's somewhat more normal, and that would go smoothly and well, and there would be joy in that. That's what we'd really like.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for, founding Ratanak, for being for obediently listening to God's call and pushing and nudging all these years.
Yeah, small steps. Small steps.
Yeah, but major in terms of impact and a encouragement to us all that when we listen, God does amazing things.
He does. He does. Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Brian. As we were chatting, I reflected on the past year and a half of working alongside him and the Ratanak team. And in my over 15 years of working with and in nonprofits, what immediately struck me as unique about Ratanak is the deep commitment of this community. I am awestruck by the skilled staff and leaders, the dedication of the long-serving board of directors, and the strong partnerships that have formed over an incredible 35 years. It makes really obvious how God has intentionally built and brought together passionate and capable people to serve Cambodia. For a while now around the office, we've been brimming with excitement about the future. First of all, excitement for Brian and his family to enjoy rest and quality time together. And also excitement to carry this legacy forward, continuing to serve Cambodia with the same heart, vision, and purpose that Brian inspired. So thank you for being a part of this journey. Until next time, join us as we continue exploring the good that we can create together.